Hi everyone, welcome to Warhammer. We are your hosts, Jack
and Dan.
Today we're going to be talking about a recent Warhammer tournament that we went to last Sunday.
Yeah, really fun tournament. You find out who took a fantastic meme list and which one of us is a big fat cheat.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see who's the two. The next one is the unit review. We're going to look at the monolith today as well, aren't we?
Yeah, very apt considering the tournament lists, and it's a fantastic unit, so looking forward to that one.
It is. And the last thing is the Space Marines today. We're going to be looking at the unit reviews / leaks for that.
Loads of Space Marine news. So the Codex is out for pre-order, so we can get right into the meat of those new detachments and find out really what we think about where this Codex fits.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for all that today.
So first up, let's talk about the tournament that we went to last week. So this was pretty unique. This was a 1,300-point tournament.
It was a bit of a strange number, that one.
Yeah, it is. And there's 26 players, but it was a very fun tournament. It wasn't intended to be like super competitive, but it's what I would class as casual competitive.
It definitely was. It was definitely fun as well, though. Like 1,300 points, strange number. And just building a list to meet that criteria is just something I've actually not done before. It's always been like...
It was a really unique challenge in terms of thinking about the list. It felt like perhaps it was like you can have 1,000 points, and then somebody said, well, that's not enough to put something big in. So it's like 1,000 points plus something big. Or in your case...
I was going to say, in my case, 3 massive things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my list, obviously, I think we talked about last time, but 3 big monoliths on my list this one. And I got a lot of eyeballs when I walked in.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got called out at the start as well when they were mentioning, like when the announcer was saying at the start, if no one knows, basically, after you walk into an event and after you kind of have a little catch up at the very start where everyone kind of announces the rules, the timings, and obviously announces to have a good day. And obviously this time he was like, I've looked through some of the lists that's there. These are all disgusting. I felt in a couple of eyeballs coming towards us. I was like,
It was. I think as we talked about last week, the triple monolith list it was born out of like sort of a joke in our chat group, and then but actually once we talked about it on paper and looking at what we were taking, we realised that it could have some play, and I think that's kind of how it went, wasn't it? It
was, and surprisingly done pretty good. Yeah,
really good.
Did we say now where we came?
Yeah, you can say now. Yeah,
why not? I guess I came 5th. On paper,
you did,
came 5th. Managed to get myself into the top table. For it's a strange one. Like I know we'll discuss this after the fact, but like I find it weird because like I was playing on the top table to become first.
Yes, and
then initially your initial thoughts must be, all right, well if you lose this, you're second. But that's not how it works.
Yeah. Now this is an interesting one. This is almost like wins versus points, if you like, or position versus points. So. You can score not very well, which we'll come on to again shortly, and still come relatively high if you win more games. The way the algorithm works, just to explain to everybody at home, is the way the algorithm works for pairing you in your matches is there's 3 games in this tournament. Match 1 is random.
Yes.
Match 2 and match 3 are dependent on how you did in the previous game. So if you win match 1 and you score high, you will be paired in match 2 with somebody who also won and scored high.
Worth mentioning, in this tournament, that's how that worked, because it was only a 1-day event, whereas I think the bigger, like the 2-day events, it's then like the first 2 games are random, I believe.
So,
yes. So it depends on the tournament.
Yes, it's tournament specific, but that was, that's a very good point. But yeah, that's what happened in this one. So if for example you score 100 points in game 1 and win, obviously, then you are going to be paired with somebody who's done equally well or nearly as well as that in game 1. And what that means is the better players are thrown together, and there can as in Highlander there can be only one. Literally you are going to the way that works is if a good player wins the first game paired with a strong player in the second game and loses that, they're pretty much already out of the podium places, because you would expect there'll be enough people within that tournament to win 3 games to take the podium places.
Exactly.
So it's an interesting dynamic, that one, because you actually outscored me, and
by nearly 50 points. I think I ended on like 255 or something like that.
I think you were 249 and I was bang on 200.
There you go. There you go. So it was just strange how I was like, I was in the top table to go like, almost become first, and then drop down to 5th.
So to backtrack, you who did you play first?
It was another Necron player. I forgot his name off the top of my head.
It was
Matthew, was it, or Maddie? One of the two.
It's Martin.
Starts with an M.
It's Martin.
Mon, there we go. Starts with an M. But yes, very fun player. It was just strange. We were the only 2 Necron players in this tournament.
Yeah.
And we went against each other at the start.
Yeah.
And it was quite funny because he approached us and he was like, "Oh, you're right, Jack, isn't it?" I was like, "Yes, mate. How you doing? How you looking?" And he's like, "Oh, I know you." And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "How so?" And he goes, "Oh, I see your podcast." I was like, "Oh," I'm blushing. I was like, "Oh, this is the first time I've been recognised. This is weird."
I think he'd just been watching it to find out what you were running.
Don't blame him. Don't blame him. Yeah, I write all the notes down. Yeah, that was really fun. And it was a really good game as well. My monoliths can just dish out the power. But I also now realise how frustrating it is versing a Necron player with Lich Guard. They do not die. Do not die. I put in one turn. I put 3 full monoliths of shooting. So that's what, 355 points. So that's like over a grand.
Over 1,000 points.
Over 1,000 points of shooting into a Lich Guard squad, which is about, with all the add-ons, that's about what, 200 odd points, 230 points.
Yeah, maybe nearly 300. Yeah, something like that.
I didn't even shrug like maybe 4 Lich Guard off them.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm avoiding them. Like, you should always avoid Lich Guard, but they just decimated.
This is one of the fun things about going to tournaments like this is getting that opposition perspective. Because like we've talked about this before, is like Necrons don't have much else to lean into at the moment.
Yeah.
But for us, we're like, get in. We can put 2 blobs of 10 Lich Guard and we'll hold those mid-board objectives all game.
Exactly.
But from the other side of the board, you were like, oh God, these things just won't die.
Yeah. So I was very happy with that. But again, overall, the tournament-wise, done really well. Came again 5th in there, 250 points. So happy days.
Your first game, you won quite considerably. It's worth saying that Martin's actually a lovely bloke that you played. He's a really nice guy. And he's a decent player. But the monolith list went into his list very well. Didn't it?
Reviewing it afterwards, after we finished a little bit earlier than everybody else, he was looking. I was like, I don't think you made a wrong play. It was just a hard matchup.
Yeah.
Basically, he didn't have the shooting power, and the shooting power that he did have, which is the Locust Destroyers. I just dropped Deep Strike one of them in. The monoliths behind.
Right.
And took them out because I knew I had to. They were
the only thing that could hurt you.
Exactly. Yeah. But once they were gone, I had no really big threats on the board to really worry my monolith. So after that, it was really just clean up,
mopping up operation.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And game 2, who did you play? Game 2,
Lewis.
Our friend Lewis,
yes, it was a swarm list. Which was fun.
He plays the endless swarms. There's like what was it, 60 or 70 guns?
I've got a picture of it. I'll put a picture on screen for everyone who's watching. But they were just an endless swarm. And looking at my list, it was just a wall, basically like terrain. It was just terrain, monolith. Because I was like, right, I need all these on the board to get as much shooting out as possible.
Yeah.
And he just hop, skipped, and jumped straight to my front line. He got turn 1, charged and advanced his the what are they called? It's the little Tyranid creatures, the
Gaunts or Gaunts,
the Gaunts, the melee ones, and moved, advanced, charged in my flayed ones, and then straight after those ones, they then just consolidated into my monoliths. So they tied 2 monoliths up, turn 1, and I couldn't get them out, so I just had to have them peppering his back line whilst they were trying to eventually move forward.
Yeah, he's a good player, Lewis. And
it was fun. Yeah,
that is a really interesting matchup between like the three giant monoliths. I know you've got a couple of other things in your list, but basically 3 monoliths and then an enormous amount of like chaff.
Yeah.
But so you did okay in that game. You won that one as well.
Just clutched it there. Yeah. So he initially came out steaming, managed to capture all the points, and he was scoring the points early days.
Yeah.
But as soon as that front wave was gone of units, I was then able to target his ones that were scoring the points.
Yes.
And once they were gone, that was kind of it. It was kind of like he had no models left on the field. If I went turn 1, I probably would have tabled him.
Right.
But since he went first, I just about tabled him at the very end. But it was literally turn 5, the charge phase kind of thing.
That's something maybe to talk about in a future episode, but I do feel that turn 1, who gets turn 1 is still pretty big in this edition.
Yeah, I think so as well, because if I went first, he had too many units to hide. Like the terrain-wise that was there wasn't enough to hide all of his units. Now he had a lot, so it wasn't the terrain's fault. He simply just had a bazillion of them.
Yeah.
But if I went first, he would have lost a considerable amount of units, and I would have gained a lot of ground and a lot of early door points to boost me up further. But again, scored pretty well. I'll have to get up the points on screen, but it was relatively close near the end. But I clutched at the end, which is good.
And then this brings us full circle back around to what you were talking about before. Because you did well in those first 2 games, the algorithm then paired you with
the top player.
Which is my pal Ryan and his Imperial Knights.
It was a good list, to be fair. He treated me like paper mache. I was just I was just destroyed basically.
Yeah.
But it was really fun, and it was a strange one because like the announcer said, "Oh, look, you can start the game," and me and him were just talking maybe for about like 10-15 minutes. We didn't even place any models down, and I think another bloke came up and was like, "Oh, how's it going? You guys on the top table?" We were like, "Yeah," and he was listening to her chatting. And he goes, "Yeah, this is the most relaxed top table I've ever seen in a tournament." And I'm just like, "Oh, but how so?" And he goes, "He's just chatting, he's haven't even started." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, no, I've only got 3 monoliths to move, so I'm not
You've
going
got
anywhere
like
fast."
6 units, he's got 6 units. It was going to be one way or another, it's going to be a fairly quick game,
exactly, wasn't it? And it was. So we started 20 minutes late on purpose because we're just relaxing, and we finished 45 minutes early. So it was literally, and the point wise to it was a really interesting actually game. It was the one where you could move the objectives.
The servo
forward
skull
and
ones,
backwards.
yeah.
So like you could move. I don't know if anyone at home knows, but this one you don't gain points for being on objectives. You gain points for moving the objective.
The mid-board objectives towards your opponent's deployment zone.
Exactly. So it's this ever-ending battle of pushing forth. You have to be able to control it to move it, and you can move it at the end of your turn and their turn. So in one turn, I was just pushing it back loads, and I focused on getting one of my objectives on the left-hand side all the way up the board because I had my flayed ones.
Right.
So I was already on there, and I just moved them as far as I can.
Nice.
Unfortunately, he came out storming and just managed to take out a monolith per turn. Oof. So by turn 2, I had no monoliths left. I couldn't do a single thing about it.
Yeah,
and
he just caught up on the points.
He just caught up on the points. Yeah. But again, I mean, he scored 93 points, and I think I scored about 72 or something like that.
So that's really respectable.
Still a
that's
very
actually
good
more
score.
points than I scored in 2 of my games that I won.
Yeah. So for me, it was like the flayed ones were the MVP because he had enough firepower, but since I could like hide behind stuff, he wasn't able to get the shots off. Whereas the monoliths obviously can't hide the monoliths really. So he just decimated those like paper mache.
But overall, that you know, I don't think any of us, when we'd started on this journey of egging you on to 3 monoliths, that you would do that well with them. And again, no disrespect to you as a player, but I just didn't think it would play that well into the tournament.
I thought I was going to, because I guess to be fair, that comes down to the matchups as well, though, because you were mentioning it before about how you think you got to where you were with kind of like luck.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about
which
that.
was wrong, by the way. First of all, before you want to talk about it, but you're wrong in that. Well, you are a good player.
It's partly luck and partly cheating, as mentioned before. So we do need to talk about this.
Yes, he did cheat. Honestly.
So my games, I took Jakari, and they're an interesting one. Is that there isn't anything big unless you want to take the Tantalus, which is like Forge World, like tank thing.
Yeah,
there isn't. We don't really have a lot of anything big in our list.
Yes.
So I went the opposite way. I went MSU really, which for those that don't know is like multiple small units.
Okay.
So the idea is Jakari are very squishy. They die very easily, but I can like go and do something, score points here. If they die, they've scored me my points, and I've got another unit, and then another unit, and then another unit that can do the same.
Yes.
So the first matchup was a guy called Krager played against Thousand Suns, and I won that match by 1 point in the final. 1 point, in the final
not
turn.
a lot.
No, it was 75 to 74.
That's really close.
He was ahead all the way through, and he's a very good player. He'd only played a handful of games in 10th, and he had a massive hangover because he'd been out with he'd come up from Manchester the night before.
So maybe that's where that extra point came from.
Yeah. If he'd had more experience and or had
a clear head,
he would have beat me. He was a good player.
Good.
I was up against it right off the bat because I mispositioned one of my key units, which is my Scourge units, which they have Dart Lances, which are very powerful, blowing big stuff off the board. And he had Magnus, so I'm thinking I need as many of these Dart Lances as I can because it's going to take me, if I get really lucky, maybe kill him in 1 turn, but realistically it's going to take 2 turns at least. And I thought they're out of, and I'm not stupid. I know how far he can move. I know what his threat range is.
Yes.
What I didn't know is that they have a trick up their sleeve where they can extend the range of their psychic attacks, which is exactly what he did. So he got
points, isn't
again,
it?
yes. So he got turn 1, moved up the board, extended the range of his attacks, pointed at my Scourge and deleted it, and that was it. It was gone.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh no. So
I'm fucked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look at the time.
Well, and I'll be honest, I have been in the past a bit more of like a sort of glass half empty player. And like, not that I'm ever going to tip the table up and storm off anything, but sometimes you do feel when things like that go against you early doors, you're like, this is
this is like a tough battle straight.
But
away.
I thought I refuse to be I'm here to
want to play.
I want to play. I'm going to try my best. Let's see how many points I can score.
Definitely.
So how I actually ended up winning was is because we're both playing tactical missions, which is obviously you're drawing cards to dictate your secondaries. Yeah. And he only had a little squad of 5 guys with a leader, with a sorcerer on his backfield objective. And I'm thinking there's two cards here which can help me. One is he can get defend stronghold, and if he can't defend his stronghold, his backfield objective, then he won't score.
Yeah.
And the big one is if I draw capture enemy outpost, you get 8 points for that.
It's a lot of points.
Off him.
Yeah.
So I used what I had in Deep Strike and reserves and whatnot to delete his backline stuff, and then lo and behold, he drew defend stronghold, and the next turn I drew capture enemy outpost.
That's perfect.
It's lucky, but you have to set yourself up for those moments.
Absolutely.
And explain it to him afterwards, because he's still quite new, and he's like, "Oh, it's almost like counting cards." I'm like, "You're making it sound like cheating there, but it is."
No, because you do need to know. You have to think about like, all right, what cards could he draw? And it's like, well, the chances are getting more and more likely that he will draw defense stronghold, and then vice versa.
As the game goes on,
exactly. Yeah. So pre-planning for that, it's not cheating, it's not card counting, but it's just planning ahead.
No, we're both joking about it. Obviously not. I don't think he meant it as like cheating, but you do have to. It's something that I haven't. I'm trying to introduce into my game that I haven't done before. Is trying to think ahead about what those cards might be.
Yeah. One thing I'm trying to do is pre-measure. Like my tournament last the Ryan bloke I played, he pre-measured. He was like, "Oh, how far can your monoliths move?" And I was like, 7 inches. He goes, "What's the range?" And I was like, "Oh, they're 24." And he was like, "Right, cool." He goes, "So I need to be like X amount away, like 1 extra inch away for you, just so that I have the most optimal movement and shooting, whereas you can't get a shot off of me." So I was like, fuck, this guy's good. I was like, it makes perfect sense. But when people do that, I'm like,
you have to do it at a tournament level, I think. Yeah, and like I said, I'd done it with my Scourge. I had run out of terrain to hide stuff behind, but I thought, well, the Scourge, actually, I've got 36 inches on my Dark Lancers.
Yeah.
I know he can't get within his threat range for his weapons, and I can still shoot him even if he gets turn 1.
Yes.
Then he did get turn 1 and extended the range of his weapons and wiped him out. So I've got it. There's more things I need to learn, but pre-measuring is and ask. Don't be afraid. That's something I definitely say. Don't be afraid to ask your opponent what the threat range is.
Yeah.
Although if you ask me, most of the time I will say I don't know. Give me a minute while I look it up. But it's a very good technique to learn for tournaments, isn't it?
It definitely is. Now, what about the second game you played? This is the one you cheated at, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, honestly, we only just discovered this maybe like 25 minutes ago.
In pre-podcast discussions, and I was absolutely devastated.
Honestly.
So to clarify, obviously I didn't deliberately cheat, as I would like to think you would know. I'm not that kind of person. It was a Tyranids player. Alyssa had a very good game. This came down to the final dice roll of turn 5.
Yeah.
So basically, she's got a big bug on an objective. I've got 3 or 4 Cabalite warriors on an objective. She's got OC4. I've got OC8. If she can kill 2 of my Cabalites in melee, then she'll deny me holding those points, and it would have been a draw. And if she could kill 3 of them, she would have held the objective, and she would have won.
Yeah.
So it was that close. It was ended up something like 68 to 65. The cheating element is it came into play in turn 4. So. And it's, as I like to point out, it's not specific. I wasn't deliberately cheating. This is we talked about this last week. Actually, you brought this up and said somebody at that tournament will get the rules wrong.
Absolutely,
and it actually turned out it was me.
Well, it wasn't just you though, because the opponent was also.
My opponent agreed with this as well.
Yeah, well, because they initially said, didn't they? They said like, "Oh, am I able to bring this on?"
So it boils down to strategic reserves. So in as far as I hope I was playing 9th correctly, but the way we always played 9th was that you could bring reserves in turn 2 and turn 3.
Yeah,
but you couldn't bring them in after that.
Again, that's my understanding of it as well.
But the rule has changed in 10th. You can bring in strategic reserves any turn after turn 1.
Yeah, so turn 2 and 3 you can bring them in on your deployment board edge and no man's land board edge.
Yeah.
Turn 4 and 5 you can bring them in on any board edge, including your opponent, as long as you're within 5 inches of the board edge and 9 inches away from an enemy.
That definitely is a change, because it was turn 2 you could bring them in on any board edge apart from your opponent's board edge, and turn 3 you could bring them in on your opponent's board edge. So that's what I got wrong. It was a kind of like a hangover. So we're playing this game. It comes to turn 4, and I'd forgotten that she had anything left in reserve. She'd already brought in all the reserves.
I don't remember what they have in there.
She brought in some 2 or 3 Ripper Swarm units, I think they were. So it's nothing like massive.
Yeah.
And popped them in my deployment zone, and I'm like, it's turn 4. And she went, oh yeah, it is, sorry. And she took them back off. Because I thought, well, you can't bring them in after turn 3. So we kind of both got the rule wrong. But because the game was so close, I'm feeling terrible about this now because I'm thinking, could she?
Could those change the game?
Ripper Swarms, I've got no idea if they're even any good.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty small. Do they have any OC? Because the Scarab Stones don't have any OC, so they wouldn't be able to cap out objectives.
Yeah, she wouldn't have been able to hold an objective out, I don't think.
Damage-wise? I mean, unless they had, like, engage on all fronts or, like, anything like that, because that's technically unit, anything that would, like, deploy turbo hormones, anything like that.
I mean, she already had stuff in my deployment zone, so in terms of, like... in terms of those backline secondaries, she was already covered. So I don't think I don't think my cheating cost her any points in that respect. But
I don't know if I was saying cheating. You didn't cheat.
My mistake.
Your mistake. Exactly. But yeah,
what
I will do is I will report you to the Wildlings community, just so that they're aware.
You can ask me to hand my badge in. Hi, my name
is Dan. Get your little badge when you go in. Hi, my name is Dan. I'm a cheater. Just so everyone knows who you are.
Yes.
But no, it happens.
But I would like to apologise to Elisa if you are watching. I'm very sorry about that. Let's have a rematch and see how it goes.
Yeah, please smash him.
Can you imagine how fired up she's going to be?
Yeah, I can imagine.
You dirty cheating bastard.
Get in the comments, everyone. Rinse them. But yeah, it was.
And then the last one I played against Imperial Knights, but it wasn't the guy you played against. It was another guy called Adam. Lovely guy. His army was beautiful. Mm-hmm. He'd won the tournament they had in April while we were at Warhammer Fest, so we missed it.
Yes.
But he'd won Best Painted army, so they banned him from entering that this year. But they were beautiful. Beautiful nights.
Hard to beat. Yeah.
They were it was that third game again is one you talked about with the servo skulls. So as I'd mentioned before, I knew I could get on those objectives, control them, and move them, and then even if the unit died, it wasn't the end of the world because I could do it again.
Exactly.
So I had to play a very cagey game. There was no way I could get into a straight up gunfight with the Imperial Knights.
I would be
very squishy. I'd be dead by turn 3.
Yeah.
So I hid, popped out, shot, used all the tricks in the book that I could have in terms of movement and deep strike and things like that to try and score points, and I ended up winning by, I think it was 67 to 57.
Nice.
But it was good. It was one that I had to really, really sweat to get the win.
Proper math it out. Just be like, right, I need to do this, I need to do that.
He did not enjoy it. So I mean, he also, I mean, the first 2 turns I didn't kill a single one of his units. So I'm like, I'm hidden here, and I'm going to pop out and dark lance you in the face.
Yeah.
And I didn't kill even one of his armages in the first 2 turns. I thought this is game over.
You say that I actually didn't kill any of my knights. You know, Ryan, my last game, I didn't kill any of his knights. Now that I think about it, so my monoliths whiffed on those shots, but I still scored like 70-odd points.
Well, and I think that's how 10th is different to 9th, isn't it? Like if that had happened in 9th, that's game over, isn't it?
Oh, it is absolutely.
But the way 10th works, you've still got the opportunity to score some points, so you can do okay.
Definitely.
So I managed all right, but at the end of the game, he was like. He's like, I'd say that was an enjoyable experience, but it wasn't. So I was like, I'm really sorry, but that's the only way I could play to try and win.
Points. Yeah, absolutely. And if that's what you got to do, you got to do it.
So because I won all 3 of those games, even though I scored fewer points than you, and played, no disrespect to my opponents, but played less strong opponents than you, I came second and you came 5th.
Yeah, which again, it's just how it is, though, isn't it? It's just the matchups. And I mean, to be fair, though, like we're talking about, like obviously the look of the draw and which armies you get. If I came across any kind of shooting army, like a Tau army, I probably wouldn't have won my first 2 games.
Tau might have given you a game.
Yeah.
I mean, my Dark Lancers are still wounding your monoliths on 5, so it would have been.
But I don't know.
I would have had to. Yeah, I would have had to roll hot.
Yeah.
But it would have been
Still
interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it's and that's the other thing I think that I've said this before because this is the 3rd Wildlings tournament. I've only been to 2 and I've come second at both of them. And luck of the draw has a massive impact on how you do at a tournament in terms of, and that's no disrespect to my opponents. Like I said, I only narrowly won all 3 of those games.
Well, it's the same for them as well. If they came across a different army that's better suited to their list,
and there's a couple of things like the Tyranid game with Alyssa. There was a point where she shot somebody off an objective when she probably should have left them on there and charged them to take it.
On them. Yeah, you got to be careful
which could have swung the game as well, but. That's part of the learning process of it.
Oh, definitely.
So overall, though, I thought it was a great tournament. And there's a couple of people I think we should give a shout out to. Who were also there as well.
Absolutely. The first one is Alex.
Yes.
One of our friends. He got best sportsmanship.
Yes.
The award there,
which, in my opinion, is the most valuable award that you can win.
Oh yeah. because again, the opponents, I mean, he lost all 3 games, so they had to give him something, just to keep the players coming back again. But no, he got best sportsmanship, and I can see why. Every game I play with him, he's always fun to play against. He's always happy to learn, and yes, he kind of corrects you, but he always corrects you in a good way. He's always like, nah, that's this, and he always provides evidence.
I could have done with him in game 2.
Not you, your opponent.
He was a lovely lad, and I was stoked to see him get something there.
That's the second time that we've had friends that we know get best sportsmanship as well, because the first one was Andy.
That's right,
Andy got that in the tournament that we went to, same thing with Wildlings.
Yeah.
And then, another one of our friends got it again.
So we'll give ourselves a pat on the back.
Absolutely,
We've got a good friend
as a collective, we're a group.
It's just me letting it down at the moment.
I know, cheers.
The other one I wanted to mention is my pal Paul, who he's never been to a tournament before. He was a bit anxious about coming. And he came along, brought a list that wasn't particularly well optimized as a White Scars list. He got trashed. He got beaten 3 times. I think our mate Dan tabled him in 2 or 3 turns.
Right.
I mean,
got to play what you like, though.
Yeah. But I think fair play to him for actually getting out there. And once even though he lost, he said he'd had an amazing time.
Good. That's what
the lads were like, "Oh, you should have introduced him before. He's a really lovely bloke," and that. Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, actually, probably should." But absolutely. I think that side of it, that social side of it, is. I know people do talk about it, but it is very true. Like you will meet new people and become friends, or extend your friend group by going to these events.
Absolutely.
And it is a steep learning curve, even a competitive casual tournament like that.
Yeah.
The lists are going to be fairly strong.
Yeah.
People are going to be there to have a good time, but also to do well.
Absolutely.
So you do need to bring your A game and a strong list to those kind of things.
You do, but also have fun. We're mentioning it. Like, I brought my list just to have fun, and I mean, I got pretty high up. So, if you bring a list to win, come in to win, you do that, but just make sure you have fun. Like, enjoy it.
I think from that perspective, like he's in the Wildlings group chat now. He's talking about coming to the Wildlings to roll some dice at the club and stuff.
Yes, on
Wants
Fridays.
To roll dice with some of the rest of you guys and the lads and that, because I've played him. Me and him have had some absolutely corking games in the past. Yeah, so he's another one, a bit like Alex. Like, you'll always have fun when you roll dice with him.
Good.
So in that respect, yes, and I think the last shout out obviously is to the organisers.
Absolutely,
I know everybody always does this, but the way the Wildlings have developed and grown. This is only like the 3rd tournament that they've ever done.
It is, yeah.
And it ran like absolute clockwork.
Absolutely, I think they're doing it really well. I think they're mentioning like every tournament they're focusing on one area of the tournament that they need. And I think they were mentioning that they've just recently got all of the terrain bits now, and obviously the board bits now. So kind of they've got all the packs as well. So like going forward, the kind of sound now from now on in.
I think obviously as I said, we weren't at the 2nd tournament. The first one was my first ever tournament.
Yeah, me too.
One of the organisers, Stephen, came up to us at the beginning of the 3rd one, and he was like, have you seen the boards now? They look, they look really good.
Yeah, they do.
Because there was some complaints about the lack of terrain in the first tournament. And I was like, I didn't care in the first tournament. I thought it was awesome.
I didn't. Again, our first tournaments, we didn't know anything different. We were like, this is great. This is fun.
I think sometimes as organisers, you can feel like that. Like, you're obviously a bit like us that we do with the podcast. You can be hypercritical of yourselves, but as long as people enjoy tournaments,
that's
it.
Yeah. And I think I didn't hear any negative comments around the entire tournament.
Everyone was awesome.
Great.
They attract a really nice bunch of people. That are. There was nobody there who was an absolute cheeseball, try hard.
No, absolutely not.
There was some good players there, but nobody had brought really deeply sweaty meta lists or anything like that. It was just they were just a really good bunch of people, and I would have happily rolled dice with any of them.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll definitely get more of those tournaments, and we'll try and come to those Friday events as well.
Yes,
because I only work around the corner from the event, so definitely have to get to some of those.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Nice one. Perfect. Well, up next we'll be looking at the unit review segment.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, so I'll be talking about the monolith, so stay tuned for that. So, Dan, unit review this time. We're looking at the monolith.
Yes. Obviously one of your favourite units.
It is one of my favourite ones, especially for this tournament that we've just been on. It's funny though, because not a lot to really talk about the monolith. It's just kind of like, it's there and it's present kind of thing. It
is such an iconic. It's like one of the most Necron units, if that makes sense.
It's one of those ones where you can easily distinct it's a Necron model. Like, you can't be like, oh, that's a Tau model. Oh wait, no, hold on. It's always a Necron monolith kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a strange model because there's not very many abilities that he has. But I guess starting off with the abilities, he has deadly demise 6, so he will explode, but kind of generic because he is a vehicle.
Yes.
And I would have thought you would have had a bit more of a punch being the size that he is, kind of thing. But he also has deep strike, which is fantastic because, getting around the board, we mentioned this before,
yes,
can be difficult. That big of a base with that terrain setup.
It's a big old model, and if you're looking on a dense board, it was difficult to get around anyway. And then with the nerf they've done to fly in 10th edition,
oh my god, yes,
it's a much harder to get around as a monolith. So with that deep strike is vital, I think, because you need to get them to where you want them to be, and then you want them to stay there, don't you?
You do. They're not going far, and that's their intention, really. So with fly, if anyone doesn't know, fly basically just allows them to fly over terrain. However, with the monolith, it has such a big, thick base, and it's also been reduced from an 8-inch move to a 7-inch move. So basically, if you do quick math on it, terrain pieces are typically 5 inches up,
yes.
5 inches down.
Yeah, very often, yeah.
And with being such a flat base, you can't land on top of the terrain.
Yes.
So you're not allowed to go over terrain because it's 5 inch up, 5 inch down.
Aye, so you can only, if you can't go over the terrain in one move, you can only land on top of it if your base is small enough to fit.
Exactly. Yes. So effectively you are unable to fly across the majority of things that's out there. Those small little ruins that's there, you could probably get around those ones, but I mean, you're going to be shot anyways. Not much.
There's nowhere to hide, is it?
No, there's not. So that one kind of sucks on that part. But again, that's why Deep Strike is good. So you definitely always want to Deep Strike at least one if you've got one, or 2 or 3. Next ability is the Reanimation Protocol as well. Obviously, he just gets the D3 wounds back. So very generic across the board. Every Necron unit has that. But still a very useful thing to do because if you're next to the Reanimator, that'll be getting D6 back. So
D3, yeah. That's excellent, and durability is one of its key traits, isn't it? So the more durable, the better.
Exactly. Talking about durability, it has 20 wounds to start off with.
It's a big boy.
Again, my list that I ran, that was 60 wounds that people had to get through. It's
a lot to chew through, isn't it?
It is a lot to chew through. Now it only has a 2-up save. Now I know it sounds good because it is good, but it doesn't have an invuln save. So anything that's high AP will then pushing it straight to like a 5-up to a 6-up save.
And this is I don't want to go off too much of a tangent, but I think this is worth discussing here because the only guns that you are going to shoot it with are dedicated anti-tank, which
real
are
guns.
typically high AP.
Absolutely.
I would have liked to have seen it have at least a 6-up invuln just to give it something.
Now we might see that in the new codexes that's coming out. Obviously the detachments that are available, they may bring certain rules like that, so it would be quite nice to slap that on there just for a bit of safety, because one example that I had was when I versed 1,000 Suns, they can use what's called Cabal points, and my friend Alex used the Cabal points to remove
just
my armor save.
Eliminate your save completely,
All I had a bunch of shots coming at me, -1, but it made no difference because I couldn't save it, so I just had all these ones coming through at me and I couldn't stop them. So he unfortunately whittled me down. So it happens. But apart from that, though, I told about the shooting side of things. It has some really, really good shooting. It's got the Death Rays, the Gauss Flux Arc, and the Particle Whip.
All right, so talk us through those. A Death Ray's got the best name ever anyway, but what does it do?
It really does. So it's 24-inch range. It is 1 attack, hit on freeze, strength 12. So
tasty.
A lot of things are going to be on freeze, if not 2s. -4 AP. So pushing a lot of things to their invuln if they've got one.
And is this the one that has them sustained hits?
It does. So any 6s or any rolls, any hit rolls of a 6, you get D3 sustained hits back.
See, that's big.
It's really good because it used to be really good for Overwatch because obviously you used to only hit on 6s.
Oh, right,
Overwatch,
yeah, of course.
But then obviously those turn into multiple hits with the
That's
D3
quite scary,
aspect of it.
actually,
Can't do that anymore though because Titanic units can no longer fire Overwatch.
That's right, yes.
It was still a very good thing. And the damage-wise, I was actually surprised by this damage in the new data slate because I thought they were looking to remove the randomness of damage, but this one is still D6 +1, whereas like the Doomsday Arc that currently has, I think it's like D3 plus.
Like Doomsday Arc's flat 4, I think.
Oh, flat 4, yes, it is, isn't it?
The Doomstalker's flat 3.
Yes, and obviously the Locust Destroyers also went to a flat value.
6,
exactly.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, it's a bit of a shame how this one's kept that randomness to it, because, I mean, I had obviously a couple of instances in this tournament where I just rolled ones. And it was going to happen, of course it was. So it'd be nice to maybe see that change in the upcoming Codex that we're going to get in December time.
Yeah, I don't want to see things get overpowered again. So, like, the end of 9th, you were getting, like, D6 plus 6 damage on stuff like that. I know it's just silly, but a bit more consistency.
Yeah, like I say, D3 plus 3, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It's always like a minimum 4 kind of thing. Is always nice. The next one is the Gauss Flux Arc. It's good, but it's just not really punchy. It's free. It's got lethal hits and rapid fire free, so it can dish out a lot of shots because it does have flat free attacks each.
Right,
so it can dish out a lot of shots.
How many of those does it have?
It's got 4 of those.
So you're doing 12 to start with, and then you've got rapid fire as well.
Exactly, rapid fire free as well. Wow. So it's going to be a lot. But again, that's strength 6, so quite a bit up there. Yeah. Compared to a lot of things. So most things again can be hit on freeze, especially against Space Marines.
Yeah, Space Marines on threes. Poor likes of pointy ears and that, and things are going to be on 2s.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but it's decent.
Yeah, only -1 though. -1 and 1 damage. So
but it's like your anti-infantry.
It is, and I guess you got the particle whip that will probably boost up the toughness against those vehicles.
Yeah.
So the particle whip, that one is a blast. It's 3 D6s, so averaging about like 12 to 11 shots.
Right. Yeah.
Per shot.
Yeah.
Hit on freeze. Wound strength is 8, so it's again a bit more tougher. So again, 2s and freeze probably. -1 and 2 damage a pop.
So that's definitely a marine killer, isn't it?
Definitely a marine killer there, yeah. But again, it's really good for those like blobs of units, you know. It has blast keyword, so an extra 1 attack for every 5 units.
I can see now why you were talking. I was trying to work out in my head before, trying to picture when you were talking about your tournament, how you were wiping out massive units of Tyranid gaunts.
Yeah.
But that I can understand now.
Yeah, because again, the gaunts, it was just hitting on freeze and then wounding on 2s, and it's like, right, well, they're dead, kind of thing. And blast obviously really helped with devastating wounds as well. So they were saving themselves on 6s.
So in terms of shooting, it's got a good range of capabilities there. It's a bit of a Swiss Army knife. It can deal with different threats.
It definitely can.
But it also has a few more tricks up its sleeve, I think.
Yeah, so in terms of the melee side of things, so it had the Portal of Exile is what it's called. It has 6 attacks, hit on 2s, and then strength 8. So again, probably 3s to 2s across the board.
Decent.
Yeah, -2 AP and 3 damage as well. So
that's tasty.
Again, that's like a custody down.
Yeah.
Each failed invent save on their part.
Yeah.
So again, going to 2s across the board. So yeah, really good to kind of see that one. Apart from that, there's not really much more to it. There's no like any other war gear. You can only bring 1, and there's not really that. Does
it still teleport stuff?
Yes, it can. Yes, it's called the Eternity Gate. I actually missed that one. Good shout. So basically, it's called the Eternity Gate. So in the reinforcement step of your movement phase, you can select 1 Necron infantry unit from your army that is in reserves or on the battlefield, and you can teleport them to the monolith within 6 inches. So very similar to 9th edition, wasn't it? That was in there.
You skipped over it because you didn't have any warriors in your tournament list. Yeah. But it's in terms of building a. Warriors are kind of making a bit of a comeback into Necron lists at the moment because Lich Guard are so expensive.
Yes.
So people are trying experimenting a bit more with warriors. Yeah. One of the warriors' guns is 12 inches, but it has like higher strength and it has some AP.
Yes.
Like the main gun has no AP, does it? And it's only strength 4, I think.
Yeah. Really
so
low.
The ability to teleport them those warriors to get them onto an objective on the midboard or to provide some threat, some shooting threat to your opponent. Yeah. That could see some play.
Just keeping them safe as well. If you move them up, get them onto an objective, and then you teleport them to the monolith.
Yes.
Just to secure a middle line.
Yeah,
it just saves you, because again, Necrons don't have very much movement. So turn 2, I guess in theory, what you could do is, since it's in the reinforcement step, monolith deep strikes in, pumps it down, then the warriors come in.
Yes.
In from reserves.
Yes.
So then they're around.
I think tactically, and like we talked a lot about this in the past, but movement's so key in this edition in terms of point scoring. And tactically, that gives Necrons a lot of flexibility. I will hold my hand up because I'm one of those that moans about the lack of maneuverability of Necrons.
It's true.
But it is actually baked into things like this.
Yeah, and looking at the ability here, it says you set that unit up that is anywhere on the battlefield that's wholly within 6 inches of this model and not within engagement range of any enemy models. So it doesn't say anything about having them anywhere 9 inches away from any other model.
That's
so you
interesting.
Could deep strike them in. And I guess in theory, all it says here as well is a Necron's infantry unit. Lich Guard infantry, right?
Oh, crikey.
Why can't they just teleport? Deep strike this one in, teleport the Lich Guard, what's it? Like 6 inches away. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 3 inches away from a 3 inch. So basically, you're effectively making your Lich Guard a 3-inch charge on that part. Sounding spicy. Now that we're reading into it. Again, I haven't read this because in my list I
didn't have anything.
I didn't really
just had monoliths.
I just had 3 monoliths in my list. And a couple of Locust Destroyers that aren't no longer infantry. No. So
we should definitely play some games where we drop
experiment with that.
Definitely. I think this has got some play, you know.
Like a 2000 list game, 2 monoliths. Yeah,
you could surprise a few people in terms of that early movement.
I think it'd be nice to see as well if anyone else actually played monoliths, because when I looked online, there's not a lot of people who play monoliths in their big lists anymore.
Yeah, you see the odd one pop up in a competitive list, but it's rare, isn't it?
It's rare,
and for the reason we talked about before in terms of moving around and stuff. But if you can play to their strengths in terms of deep striking and bringing other units into play around them, then it does have some play. You've already covered that it's actually pretty hard to kill, and it's very effective in both combats, in melee and shooting.
I might have to play a bit more, but if anyone has played any monoliths in their 2K list games, let me know what you combo them with, because I want to see if they're viable.
Yeah, definitely.
And I might actually try this tomorrow against Lewis.
Yeah, I think you definitely should, and I think I would love to hear how you get on with that. But it's gone from not appearing in any of our lists to being a meme to now being something that we're seriously considering.
Now like, it sounds pretty good.
We've talked ourselves into it.
I have. I might try the Gauss flux as well, because I did the Jeff rays last time, which was fantastic.
Right.
But with that amount of shots, 12 shots. What's that, going up to 30 odd shots, 36 shots.
Yeah.
So I might give it a try.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a go.
Deep strike in within half range. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to give it a go. Let me know if anyone else gives it a go, but I certainly am.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, perfect. Move on. Next thing, we're going to look at the Space Marines, see what the leaks are, what the rumours are, and what's been hard facts so far.
Yes. So as we're recording this, the Codex is officially out for pre-order. And I think the delivery is about mid-October time, so a couple of weeks.
Yep.
£35 for the standard one, or £60 for special edition, same as the Tyranids. But there is one difference to the Tyranids that we notice, which is that this actually has new artwork.
Yes. Poor Tyranid players.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Space Marines are the poster boys, so I guess they were always going to get new artwork.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a strange one though. How it's like the artworks. We mentioned it before, but the artwork hasn't really changed that much. It's like the same color scheme.
Yeah, we had to go back and look because we weren't sure if it was new or
we
not.
looked at it and we were like, nah, that's still the same. But it's actually not.
It's very much the
different.
same like colour palette, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's not the standard Codex, and we're being, we are being a little bit overcritical maybe here, but it's just not doing it for me. It's pretty dull.
It looks. I mean, you were distracted by the big flashy impact on his shoulder.
Yeah, the guy's got like something's pink blowing off his shoulder, but he's just kind of sort of stood there.
Yeah, really just like there was nothing going on. Like you look at the Tyranid one or the neck one that we've got behind us, and again, like you got the Tyranids that are rushing forward. They're all blurred out because it's like this endless swarm that's coming towards you. The Necrons are all in focus and basically like being presented with like. An undying legion, effectively.
Yeah, you get that real feel of them marching towards you.
Yeah, there's like a never-ending.
There's a sense of threat of like
exactly. Yeah. The Space Marine just was kind of a guy.
He's just kind of
standing there.
The
looking off into the distance.
In fairness, the limited edition one has got quite a lot going on. I think it's a librarian on there, but that's much more dynamic.
With like the sword and the lightning kind of. That one looks really good, but I mean that's going to be again what 60 quid.
You're paying extra £25 for the privilege.
I got the price wrong completely last time, but again it's still a ridiculous amount of money for the limited edition one.
But that aside, in general, before we could take the deeper dive, this actually looks like a really good Codex. They've avoided Codex creep again. They have managed to add a lot of flavour back into the Marines without making it too overcomplicated.
Absolutely.
I think they've struck a really good balance here.
I think so. The detachments that's there, I have not like. There's not a one that I'm like, ooh, that's like massive. Actually, the interesting thing that we haven't mentioned yet is obviously their core rule, which is the Oath of Moment.
Yes.
So Oath of Moment, what it is currently, is you get to reroll the wound rolls and the hit rolls of your Oath of Moment target.
Yeah, you pick one unit, or if you've got Gulliman, you get to pick 2 units.
Yes,
you pick one unit and you can reroll all hits and all wounds, which is really strong. I mean, you're basically pointing at something and deleting it, apart from a few exceptions like a Lich Guard, for example.
Exactly. But now, in the new Codex, is that the Oath of Moment target, you're only able to reroll the hit rolls.
Yes, and this seemed like a massive nerf, to be honest, because re-rolling wound rolls is huge. It's much mathematically, it's much more important than re-rolling hit rolls.
It is.
But the reason they've done this is because they've given them so much more play
extra
in
stuff.
In the other detachments.
There's so many more positives or like pluses and negatives in each detachment that having those detachments plus the re-rolls on wounds and
it would have been a little bit too much.
It would have been a lot more. So,
which I call me an old cynic, but it surprised me because they are the poster boys, and I expected them to be a very strong codex, like an OP codex.
Yeah.
And while this is very early days, it certainly doesn't feel like that yet. I should also caveat this again, as we did with the Tyranny video, that we haven't actually been sent a copy of the codex, which is a travesty. But
we thought we were going to get one, honestly. Our contact in GW said that they're on the way, but obviously haven't yet. No. So,
but the information's all out there. There's lots of great content creators who did get one. So there's plenty of videos out there.
Yeah.
We're going to give you like the highlights really. Yeah. If you want the really deep dive, go and look at something like
Auspex Tactics
is a good
videos.
There's like 2-hour videos.
Goonhammer does good.
Goonhammer's got a good review. Auspex. What those guys call Art of War, they've got like a 2-hour video on it that got really deep dive. So there's plenty out there if you want a deep dive. We're just going to try and hit the very highest.
Just like a high level kind of cover of it, because there's far too much to go into, and we're not Space Marine players, but we like to know what's kind of cracking on.
We're gonna. Weirdly, we don't have a lot of Marines now meta like Space Marine. We've got Chaos Marines that are all coming out of our ears, but not many. Yes. We've got Thousand Sons of Death Guard and Chaos Space Marine and stuff, but we don't. None of us actually, apart from one player, Jared, none of us really play Marines that much, and Jared doesn't get them out that often. No. So in our local meta, it's a bit weird. It's one of the little quirks of our local meta that we don't come across them very often.
It's very true.
There's a couple of new units in there.
Yes, you want to talk about those?
Yeah, we've got Jump Pack Assault Intercessors, which have obviously been trumpeted. Model-wise, these look pretty good because GW's moving away from the dreaded flight stands, which are the bane of anybody that has those kind of models, because they're always falling off.
They just break.
You can't glue them on because for transporting to tournaments and stuff, it makes life difficult.
It is.
So
those weird shape of those like intercessor ones that have
the kind of bent.
They looked awful. Like they weren't see through. It was clearly there.
Yeah.
So a lot more tactical rocks.
Big tactical rocks, baby. Yeah, that's the way forward. Go. Yeah, but I'm quite happy with that. I didn't think the models looked bad. No. Game-wise, Assault Intercessors are okay. The movement that these give them is going to make them very valuable for point scoring, as we like to talk about. And they're reasonably cheap. I think they're coming in about 90 points for 5, which I think we might see them on some tables. The other new one was the Company Heroes, which is the replacement for the Command Squad.
Right.
And these look awesome. Like,
I've not seen those ones.
The models, I think, are great.
What do they look like?
Just very thematic for the Space Marine sort of champions. You've got your standard bearer there and whatnot. They've posed them quite well. They look like they'd be a lot of fun to paint.
Nice.
But
that sounds good.
Yeah, I'm tempted. My son, as I mentioned before, plays Ultramarine, so we might look at getting those just to add to his army, because I think they'll look good on the tabletop. Competitively wise, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see them on the table, but.
Depends on what people like to play, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously, what detachments they want to play as well.
Beyond that, there was a load of changes to some of the data sheets, but they've been mainly tweaks. And again, honestly, I'm not going to go through them all here now.
There's far too much.
Yeah, and we need to be a Space Marine expert to be able to analyse them properly.
Definitely.
But generally speaking, the most interesting things which we do want to talk about is the detachments.
Yes, because there's 7 new ones, and there's 6 new ones, and one of them was
6 new ones in the existing Gladius. Yes,
exactly. So interesting to see how these will play off. Because again, looking at them at a glance, there's nothing that's like a major that one's going to get taken in every single game kind of thing. Whereas the Necron one, as I mentioned, we had always the same two abilities that we're going to take.
I haven't played enough against Tyranids to know which one, because we talked about this. There was 2 or 3 that we had different opinions on that we thought might be the ones that came to the fore, and I think it's still going to take a little while to wash through. Yeah, and I do think we'll find the same with Space Marines, because there's such breadth and depth of play in here, which is one of the great things about it. But it's going to take them a little while to settle on, do the math hammer and the min-maxing to find out which one's
the best one to take. Yeah, well, I guess maybe should we just talk about the first company one, which is the first one? Is it the Gladius one? No, different ones, aren't there?
So Gladius Task Force is the OG one, which was in the index.
Yes.
Which,
that's just giving like the rerolls to the wound rolls, is that right? Is that what that one does?
You got your 3 combat doctrines as you used to in 9th as well. So you've got so you've got your which gives you some good tactical flexibility in terms of movement, particularly because I think there's you've got things like advance and shoot and advance and charge and stuff like that. So
got you.
The whether this is going to be, people have obviously been playing this in the index already, so I don't think there's anything that stands out about it to say this is going to be super strong.
Sure.
I would expect most Space Marine players to be playing other detachments just to experiment to start
Makes
with.
Sense, yeah.
But it's good that it still exists, and this is the Ultramarine style of play, isn't it? Really, plenty of flexibility in it. I named all of these in my notes after in the style as if they were like Spice Girls, and this one.
Oh, go on then.
This one's called Flexi Spice because that's basically what it does. It's just it gives you that flexibility.
Yeah.
Whether the you were saying that the Oath of Moment rule for these guys, they can reroll wounds still?
No,
for this
I'm
one?
mistaken on that one.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
that one is the one I was looking at was the First Company Task Force.
Oh, right,
That's
okay.
that one. I was getting confused because I didn't really find much information on the Gladius one.
Yeah, it exists and it is what it is. With the nerf to Oath of Moment, then in that case, my view would be that I think it will, because it's a step back from how strong it was in the index.
Of course.
So. We'll see.
Be interesting because they might change the doctrines.
Yeah, the doctrines are still decent. As I said, I think they give you a lot of flexibility. But unless you're an absolute diehard Ultramarine player and you want to play Ultramarine style because your boys are all painted blue, if you want to be a Smurf, be a Smurf. But
go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Any of the detachments you want to talk about first? Any of the ones that you really like, Dan, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, we'll just run through them. I mean, Anvil Siege Force, which I've called Shooty Spice. This is your Imperial Fist play style, isn't it? Did you have a look at this one?
I haven't. No,
this is the one where
I've probably got it written down somewhere, but I've probably missed it.
That's all right. This is the one where all weapons gain heavy, but if you've already got heavy, you get +1 to wound if you stand still.
Yes.
So it's very much this is like if you want to play Town Marines, it's a gun line.
Yes, I do know this one. Firestorm, was it Firestorm Assault Force?
And Anvil Siege Force, it's called, I think.
Oh.
And the challenge with this one, I think, is very shooty. If your weapons all gain heavy, you're going to obviously do a lot more damage.
Yep.
The strats and the enhancements are based a lot around that, and there's some durability ones as well, but mainly it's about making you more shooty. Right. So the challenge with that one will be balancing your list with enough action monkeys in there to go and do the actions.
Yes.
While your gun line stands at the back and kills everything.
Well, there is a lot of obviously secondary missions that require you to do shooting, and so obviously it always sucks whenever. Like obviously in my list where I had the monoliths, it's kind of hard to sacrifice an entire monolith to shooting to get
to do an action.
It kind of sucks. So being able to do both now, it's gonna be great for the Space Marines.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll that one will certainly see some play because it's just so strong. But how much play we'll see. But it certainly looks pretty killy. Like
definitely.
Ironstorm Spearhead, which is I've called Tanky Spice because this is your one for dreadnoughts and tank spam basically.
Yep.
Rerolls for days. Yep. It's going back to my PTSD with Eldar, but you can re-roll one dice per unit per phase, and that can be a hit, a wound, or a damage roll. So, like you were talking about swinging damage before, D6+1 on a las cannon. All of a sudden, mathematically, you are much more likely to do some serious damage.
It's going to be a tough one. Yeah,
this one is probably the most killy out of them all, I think.
Yeah.
It's your Iron Hands play style, which is obviously vehicle heavy, tech marines and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some of the enhancements and strats are really cool as well.
Yeah. What is it? What are they?
Well, they've got Target Augury Web is one of the enhancements, which basically gives your tech marine a 6-inch bubble of lethal hits. So you whack him in between like 2 repulsor executioners or something.
Yeah.
Every 6 hits is an auto wound.
Yeah.
And then you've got your rerolls on top of that, obviously.
You might even want to fish for the 6.
Yeah.
Try and get through.
Power of the Machine Spirit is one of the strats they've got. This one I absolutely hate. I can see it's getting a lot of play.
Yeah.
But if I again imagine this on a big tank, if I shoot that tank and get it down to under half wounds, you can spend a CP and it can shoot back at the target that just shot it.
That's funny.
Yes,
that's funny.
Yes. So again, on something with all the guns like a repulsor executioner. My Drakari Ravager shoots it and gets it down to half wounds, and it just goes.
Because you can't even at that point you would normally,
hide.
You would normally move out. You'd shoot them and you'd go back away again. But obviously at this point you're all right. At this point you would jump out, shoot, and then get shot. Oh my god, that's like
it's tasty.
Same with the Tau as well. Like what sort of Fire and Fade?
Fire and Fade. It's very very tasty.
That's funny. That's funny.
So the strats and enhancements make it very killy. Whether again they've got enough movement shenanigans to go with that to score the points, I'm not sure. But I'm expecting to see this on a table just because people that run Iron Hands or like running vehicle heavy lists are just going to want to blow stuff up.
I don't blame
It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's a strat to auto destroy model as well, so you can imagine what's it called? Is it the Brutalis Dreadnought, that one with the two claws?
Yes.
You yeet him up the board into your opponent's lines, and then when they kill him, you just auto explode him. Yeah. So
why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Basically, you'd want to get the extra wounds off.
How competitive it is, I'm not sure yet because as I said, I'm not a spaceman expert, but it doesn't half sound like a lot of fun, doesn't it?
No, it sounds good. It sounds good. One of the ones I'm actually looking forward to is the Vanguard Spearhead one.
Oh, yes.
So that one basically allows them to... It's basically like a stealthy detachment, effectively. Like, they have... Effectively, all their units have stealth. That's kind of the way I've read it. So...
Well, interestingly, it's if I'm reading this right, I think it stacks with stealth. Mm-hmm. So what it specifically says is you -1 to hit, doesn't it?
Yes. So their ability, their master, it's called their Master Shadows.
That's right.
Rule. So you have a... if you're outside of 12 inches, you have a -1 to hit them. And they get a +1 to their save as well, their cover save.
See, that's really cool.
Which is really fun.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Because again, as that may stack with like stratagems and such that they've got in. One of the stratagems that they do have for that one is it's almost the reverse. So when they are shooting at an enemy that is more than 12 inches away, they get a +1 to their hit and get a +1 to their AP. So it's like, again,
this like cool,
it's like this like death from the shadows kind of thing. Like they're outside the shadow range, but now they're shooting into the shadow range. They're like, well,
that's proper sneaky.
And it's only 1 CP as well. So pair that with like a massive squad of like Terminators who might be in close range with like a blob of orcs or a blob of Tyranids. -1 to AP, +1 to hit. They're gonna get and tie that with maybe an awful moment, having those extra rerolls. That's gonna be a lot of shots coming at you.
That is a lot. Yeah, you're right.
A lot of hits coming at you. So good combos, I think.
They've got there's an enhancement they've got called the Blade Driven Deep, which is a great name for an enhancement. That gives a unit infiltrate. So the bearer of that gives the unit infiltrate.
Yep. So
put that on.
What does that do, Dan?
Put that on 10 Terminators.
Oh, actually, that's really good.
Yeah, you can dominate the midboard from the outset. That's going to be that one is definitely going to see some competitive.
Absolutely. So infiltrate obviously lets you basically put a unit up the field before the game starts. So when you're setting up your units, you can be like, these guys are going to be on the midboard, ready exactly where they need to be.
That's good. And that's one of those things that one of those moments where I'm looking at it and thinking that might change the meta slightly, because infiltrate's going to become much more important, because if you're that Space Marine player and I know you're going to be trying to infiltrate your Terminators, I need units that I can infiltrate first, so you can't get too close to my lines.
Like prevent them from getting so close, because you don't want them to get your turn.
And it's just another level of tactical play that's coming into the game, which I really
like. Definitely.
They've got this one I absolutely love as well is they've got a stratagem called Deadly Prize where they can booby trap an objective.
Right.
This is awesome. So you're on the objective, obviously. You use the strat, and then any enemy unit ends any type of move like advanced charge, whatever, ends within 3 inches of that objective. They take D3 mortal wounds.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
There's some absolute filth in this detachment. Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be good to see.
And I think it'd be going to be interesting to see. While I think the designers were aiming this, like you said, at the kind of the sneaker units, like your Phobos units, and that, the way it plays could work really well for tanks and stuff like that as well. Because if you can give them that -1 to be hit and stuff like that,
that's gonna be great.
That is pretty big for them.
Yeah,
you can give like we said, rather than a Phobos unit, if you're giving those, or a small scout unit trying to take the midboard, which is normal for infiltrate. You just go, here's my 10 Terminators with Lord and Grimnar, like Space Wolf, absolute blender in melee.
Absolutely,
he's gonna get a turn 1 charge. That changes the game.
Yeah, and even just keeping your main objective at the far back nice and secure. Mm-hmm. You've got an iron -1 to hit and cover, so you're gaining benefit from doing nothing. Basically, you're still sitting there in the cover.
So for me, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that is the one. That was the standout one for me. That's one I'm not looking forward to playing against it.
No,
but
it's gonna be annoying.
It could. It's got an awful lot of
flexibility. I think.
Yeah, that's the word. Flexibility. Yeah. Was there any others that you'd picked out?
What was the one that we're talking about the mounted units? Stormlance Task Force. I think is what it's called.
This was a bit disappointing for me.
Yeah.
This is Biker Spice, if you like. So this is aimed at, like, thematically at your White Scars chapter. So you know, building around bikes and ATVs, so it's meant to be move fast, hit hard, fail, you know, move on type thing.
Yes.
Almost like cavalry.
Exactly.
The challenges around this is that the detachment rules and the strats by and large are built around mounted units.
Yes.
And if I've counted this right, there's only 3 mounted units in the Codex. Basically, you've got your bikes, you've got your ATVs, and a chaplain on a bike.
Yep.
And similarly, for the enhancements, for those that are targeted towards mounted characters, there is only one. So we joke a lot on here about, like, how many lieutenant variants there are, but there isn't a lieutenant on a bike. There is just a chaplain on a bike. There isn't even a captain on a bike anymore.
This is no incentive for GW to be like, oh,
we
need more
lieutenants.
Don't. You've got enough, damn it! You don't need any more.
So this one for me then is is one of the ones where it's thematic.
Yes.
But we're talking about my friend Paul, who plays White Scars. This isn't going to help him win any tournaments.
Yeah, but because when I originally read this, I was like, this sounds good, because I've said it before, but in 10th, it's all about movement. You need to get around the board. You need to get onto objectives. But breaking it down, as you say, if there's only 3 units that will benefit from it.
I mean, you were right in that it gives advance, and you can advance and charge, or fall back and charge. And you can do that with any unit. So there is a lot of movement flexibility in these detachments.
Yes.
You made a very good point there. I think the challenge in terms of the strength of it is that the rest of it is too focused on those mounted units, and there aren't enough of them. And also Outriders don't hit that hard. So back in the old days, I know, but we're talking about Firstborn.
Back in my day.
Yeah, back in my day, things were a lot better. But the old bikers, Space Marine bikers, you could kind of tool them up, because there was a fair few weapons you could take. Like, you're putting Power Fist on a biker, he's bezzing up the board and then punching you in the face with Power Fist. You know about it. But the poor Outriders basically just got chainsaws, haven't they? They're not. So they've lost a bit of that melee punch.
Yeah.
So in terms, if we think about 3 elements of list building in terms of point scoring, lethality, and I guess tactical flexibility, they've got some of the movement there and some of the point scoring capability, but I'm not sure about the lethality.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, quantity of shots can get through, but it's just not a lot. There's not a lot.
It will come down to how, you know, if somebody can make this list work. If you were trying to run White Scars using this with a bike heavy list, that would be difficult.
Yes.
I would love to see it done, but I think it would be a challenge.
Yep.
And there might be other play with this detachment rule that I'm not bright enough to spot yet, where you're using other units, you can make it work.
I mean, once we get our hands on it, I think it'd be nice to see what it fully entails and what units can benefit from it. Because they might just change some of the keywords. They might just say, all units opposed to mounted units.
Yeah, that's it. They could change some of the strats and make them a bit more exciting. That's a bit more impactful.
Hopefully they don't make the Codex out of date before it gets released. It
wouldn't be the first time.
No, it would not be the first. Let's hope it's the last, though. But you know what actually I'm interested in seeing is that this doesn't feel like, we mentioned it in one of in a previous episode, where this doesn't feel like a Codex that's going to come out and be the meta. This just seems like a Codex that's out there, which to me is going to be good. I hope this doesn't overtake any of the indexes that's out there.
Yeah, this was one of the things when we went through the Tyranid Codex. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, nothing here is really leaping out. There's a couple that I think might be quite strong.
Yeah.
And we had actually different opinions on that because it's so close. There was not really a standout detachment in there that you think everybody's going to take this. There is, we've talked a little bit about some of those detachments. The one I think we might see in quite a bit of play, which I haven't covered on here, is a Firestorm Assault Force, which is this is like your Salamanders type detachment.
Yes.
So you get an assault on all your guns, and you get +1 strength when you're within 12 inches. So they've also got some very, very cool strats, which I really like. So there is one where if I shoot you, and if you're in a transport, say you're in a Rhino, I shoot that vehicle. You can then use this strat where you can then get that unit out of the vehicle and shoot back at what's just shot you.
Yeah.
That's like free movement, which we talk about a lot again. That the movement itself is good, but then the ability to also barbecue whatever's just shot at you is
really good, really fun. Yeah, just to get those extra shoot, because obviously you being able to shoot on a turn that's not yours. Is always good.
It's strong, isn't it?
Extra. You're getting more bang for your buck, basically, which is great.
And they've got another one which is absolutely filthy. I think it's 2 CP, but it's still filthy. Which is they can give Flamer's devastating wounds. Imagine that on a squad of like 10 of those Infernus Marines.
My goodness. On my monolith. Like, they're still probably wounding on 5s and 6s, but the amount that they'll get through, it's crazy.
You could cause some serious damage. So you could take down like you say, a monolith or a knight or something like that with the right firepower.
Absolutely.
So I think that detachment is very much framed around whacking those units with flamers and melters. It'll play into well as well. Yeah. Into transports, getting them close, and then devastating the opponents. So you're gonna see quite a lot of good movement capabilities in that. You've definitely got the lethality in there. There's a lot of damage that they can do. So there's that one we might see. But again, to come back to your point, is that the word might is important there, is that it's looking reasonably strong on paper, but it's not screaming out at us.
No.
This is the one that's going to be like, so much more OP.
It's not going to be like you walk up to a table and you're like, oh, you're playing the Gladius one? Yeah, cool. And it's like, it's going to be interesting to see which one everyone picks. It's not going to be an auto include.
Because the Space Marines, they obviously have to be better than everybody else, so they actually get 7 detachments, not 6. So they also
there we go. Yeah. And obviously new artwork as well.
Yeah, new artwork.
So
they've also got the
get the money out for those boys. Yeah.
They've got the First Company Task Force, which you just briefly had mentioned before. Yeah. But that's based around like your veterans and your Terminators.
Yes.
This is one that feels very thematic, but again, I'm not sure how strong it is. You mentioned that their detachment rule is that they can re-roll the wounds against the Oath of Moment targets.
Yes, correct.
But it's a once per game per unit ability. So I think it's not as strong as the old Oath of Moment, if you like. Feels weird calling it the old Oath of Moment when we're only like 3 months into the edition.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously the new Codex is literally about to drop today.
Yes.
Today.
It's on pre-order. It come out. Yeah, you start seeing it delivered shortly.
Again, ours must have got lost in the mail from JW. I'm sure they were meant to send it to her, and I'm sure it's on the way to us. So once we get it, I'm sure we'll do a review.
So I think, you picked one there, Vanguard, which looks very, very strong. Firestorm, I think, looks quite strong. And also, that really appeals to me because just the idea of setting the entire board on fire, basically.
Watch the world burn.
Watch the world burn, yeah. But there's an awful lot of the focus on this, while there is obviously going to be some competitive play. There's a massive amount of fun in there. There's things that you could see will be a lot of fun to run. Loads of flavour, and you can run, again, like we said with Tyranids, you can run Space Marines in pretty much any way you would expect to be able to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And absolutely hats off to them again on what looks like a pretty balanced codex.
Yeah, I think so.
So we're still early days. It's not, how long is it since the Tyranid one came out? A couple of weeks? It's not long, is it?
Yeah,
a few weeks.
No.
And
didn't dominate the tournament we were at.
Didn't dominate the tournament we were at. Hasn't from the tournament, the GT data that we've been seeing, they haven't been dominating that either.
Not seeing like any videos on YouTube being oh, they're awful, they're too good.
This list has broken the meta. No, there's none of that. They've done an amazing job of keeping them. With the Tyranids, it was almost like they'd rein them in almost a little bit too much, but they feel like they're fairly squarely middle of the win rate type of faction, and that can only be good for the game.
Definitely.
If they manage that with every codex that comes out, we're in for an incredible edition.
Let's hope.
A lot less whinging from me for a start.
Same on my part.
Yeah. Well, nobody. I know it's a very complex game and there's loads of factions and stuff.
Yeah.
But all any player wants is balance. Is a level playing field.
Good game across the board. It's like you're not going into a tournament being like, I hope I don't verse these 5 armies kind of thing. So, very good.
So great job, and I'm keen to see some face off against some Space Marine armies and I'll see how it goes.
Perfect. I think the last thing you mentioned for today is the giveaway winner.
Yes. We did a giveaway, as you might remember, for a £100 Games Workshop voucher to somebody who, like a prize draw, basically. And the way we set it for this is the first one we've ever done, so we obviously want to be like squeaky clean and do it as fairly as you can. So we set a specific time frame for how long it's going to run. There's 3 key steps that you had to follow to qualify for entry, and then in order
easy steps.
And then in order to make sure that there was it was completely random. You got the better. Actually, I'm thinking about this. You got the better half of the deal here because I had to do all the work.
You did.
So
I kept quiet on that part.
I had to monitor all of the entrants, add them to a spreadsheet.
And you were messaging people being like, what's your YouTube feed, so I can like get you
make sure they were on.
And you were very on top of that, which was quite nice.
Thank you. I do enjoy a bit of admin, but it's probably just as well. How does give an insight into how Dan spends his spare time?
I was going to say, I like looking over Excel spreadsheets. But yes, no, it was very nice for you to gather all the data.
Yeah, so I gathered all that, but I didn't let you see it. No. And the reason why is obviously each row on a spreadsheet is numbered. So I then said to you, right, pick a random number.
Yep.
And that was the way that we ensured that it was done correctly. Yeah, it's the fairest way you can do it.
Absolutely.
And the winner was a gentleman called, he's actually from the Northeast, actually, a gentleman called Andrew Alcock. He was Andrew Alcock1 on Instagram.
Yep.
So congratulations, Andrew.
Well done.
That voucher will be winging its way to you.
Yep.
Thank you to everybody else that entered. We had like literally hundreds of entrants. It was
really good.
Really popular competition. Thank you to everyone that subscribed. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel or follow us on Instagram, then please go and do that.
Yep.
But yeah, look out for. We will be. This one was very successful, and I think we both decided we'd like to. We did them as a way of saying thank you for hitting 1,000 Instagram followers.
Yeah, it was really nice.
I think as the channel grows, we'll obviously do more of them.
Yeah, we'll definitely want to
celebrate those milestones.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to celebrate. Yeah. Definitely. Well, thank you so much. Any comments is obviously great as well. I do want to hear about what your thoughts are on the Space Marine upcoming Codex.
Yeah, the amount of engagement we're getting on social media and on the in the comments section of YouTube videos is awesome. There's a really nice community developing on there, and you always got very good points to make. So yeah. Tell us how you feel about me cheating.
Absolutely, please rinse them in the comments. All right.
I'm going
to get on my 4 other accounts and rinse them.
But yeah, do tell us also about Space Marines, particularly if you're Space Marine players. We really want to hear from Space Marine players about what you're excited to play, which detachments you're going to be trying first, and which ones you think are going to be the most successful.
Yep, absolutely. Let we all know. And that's it for us.
Absolute pleasure as always. Thank you.
Thanks so much.